What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Nehemiah, aka Neo, and today we're going to be talking about my top five teams in terms of excitement going into next year. Now, this isn't going to be the best teams in the world. This is probably going to have some of the worst teams in the NBA. However, I do think it's really going to be exciting to see them, like a lot of these teams, come into fruition. There's been a lot of changes in this offseason, and I want to, just spotlight a lot of the teams that have a lot of exuberant players both on and off the court, and we could really just see them shine uh, as in their own way. This could be a team like the Golden State Warriors, or it could be a team like even the Orlando Magic. But this is just gonna be my personal ranking in terms of highlights, uh, in terms of how I think that this team is going to play, all that. So let me just get into this ranking. So the first team that I actually have is going to be a team that a lot of people had on their radar last year for a couple of fun teams, and that was the Houston Rockets. Now, I do understand that the Houston Rockets weren't the best team, especially in the start of the year. However, when they really got their groove on, they were something else. Especially because I actually didn't really watch a lot of Houston Rockets games, especially until like the later part. But I know that Jalen Green, Kevin Porter Jr., Daniel House, those guys just kind of mesh together. And even then, they just have a lot of fun players. Sengun, for example, he's one of the funner players in the whole league. He's kind of like a little Jokic, like in terms of how they can handle the ball on the perimeter, especially as a bigger guy. I think that this team just overall has just a lot of pieces that they can have that can make it so that they just have a lot of highlights on their team, both on and off the court. And speaking of that, this team is probably one of the top five most dressed teams in the NBA. So it's going to be really cool to see this younger team to, get the spotlight that they're going to deserve. Especially because, being a younger team, I think that they just have a lot of stuff that they could, use going forward. And if that's the case, then I personally want to see how a lot of this stuff comes out, especially because I didn't really watch them last year. And I really want to watch them this year. I've seen some of the highlights, especially Jalen Green going off last year, especially in the later half. He was averaging like 20 some points per game on really good efficiency. So I expect that type of start this year. And but once we see all those really good players, it's going to be really exciting to see how everything comes to fruition. So that's going to be my first team. Now my second team is actually going to be a team that had a really massive change, and they're probably going to be on a lot of people's radar. And I think that that's going to be the Atlanta Hawks. Now, I think that a lot of people do get snoozed by DeJounte Murray, not because of his play, but because one of the character around him, and two, the team that he was previously on. The San Antonio Spurs weren't really the fun team. They weren't really the most I would say exuberant team. They weren't really expressive. They were kind of just there, similar to the Indiana Pacers, where they're just teams that we know that they exist, but we kind of just put them off their minds. However, I think that with Dejounte Murray on this team, I think that we're going to see a really good side of Trae Young that we probably never seen before. It's going to be an off-ball version of him. Uh, Even if they do split their minutes, stagger them, I still do think that there's going to be a really good time where Trae Young just doesn't have the ball. We may just see him running around the court, like kind of like Steph does, even to a lesser extent, Darius Garland. And with that being said, I really expect this team to just have a whole bunch of highlights. They still have John Collins, the guy who has a lot of really good dunks. They still have Clint Capella, who I think a lot more niche fans like him. And personally, I just really like the pairing of Trae Young and Dejounte Murray, especially as a duo when it comes to how exciting they can be. And I really want to see how that comes out in terms of how fun they can be. I really think that this team has a really good upside in terms of how fun they will be. Now, the third team, I really did consider this on the fly, but I really do like the Memphis Grizzlies, especially seeing them in the playoffs. When they were good, they were fantastic. I really liked seeing them on the court. I really like seeing, Jaw, especially the 50-point game. That was insane, especially when he got the dunk and the buzzer beater alley oop. It was really fun, and I expected this team, with a little bit more maturity, with a little bit more experience on their belt. I think that they're gonna at least benefit a lot from that, and they're probably gonna, mesh it in together to where they still have that fun factor, but they're still a little bit more experienced. They act more like veterans, and I think that's gonna be beneficial for this team. And in terms of the fun aspect, I think that this team just has a lot of really, really, really fun players. John Morant, for example, I think he's probably one of my top 5 favorite players in the league. Jaren Jackson Jr., he's definitely in my top 10. I really like Jaren Jackson, especially on the defensive end. The only thing that's holding Jaren Jackson back is really just himself. But when you see him going off, it's crazy, especially when it's on the defensive end. He's a really good defender, and I really like seeing that part of him. Desmond Bain, Desmond Bain just be pulling up. I don't know why. I don't know how, but he's really just him. And I really just like Desmond Bain. But I just really, really like the green guard culture of this team. I understand that people don't like John Murray because he does talk a lot. And honestly, I think that's really a petty reason. I think that just brings it more excitement because John Murray on Twitter is especially fun. You know, it's free to see how hollows feel. That's all I gotta say. But on to the next team. I would say the Warriors are still one of the more fun teams. Personally, I probably won't watch them because one, or watch them as much as other teams because one, they're already the champions, and I really don't think that they're gonna change at least drastically to the point where it's gonna be like, oh, okay, this is a completely different team unless Klay Thompson uh, takes a rise, unless a lot of the rookies take a rise. I don't really expect them to, but I do really think that this team is still just going to be really, really exciting to see. Uh, I think that they're going to be a team that we probably should have seen with the Brooklyn Nets when James Harden, Kyrie, and Kevin Durant were there, where they just have a bunch of shot making, a bunch of creation, a bunch of just overall movement when it comes to players. So I really think that this team is going to be on my really, really good radar. So for some honorable mentions, I do have the Clippers. I really want to see how they do. I have the Cavs. I would say that the Cavs are more exciting for me on the defensive end. Same with the Milwaukee Bucks, but honestly, I don't want to consider the Milwaukee Bucks as a fun team because, I'm just gonna watch them anyways. They're my favorite team. I gotta watch them, But the Cavs, they're really one of my favorite teams going into the season. But I don't really think they're going to be the fun, especially from a fan's point of view, especially from an average fan's point of view. They're really a slower team. They really want to be more methodical, especially on the defensive end. So I don't really think that really pays attention, or that it's really the best for a fan that really just wants to, see some highlights. But in my personal opinion, the most, or at least what I think is going to be the most fun team going forward is definitely going to be the Denver Nuggets when they're fully healthy. Bro, once Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray come back, it's going to be over. It's going to be constant highlight reels, especially when Jokic has taken a step, especially after Jamal Murray's injury, especially after Michael Porter Jr.'s injury, excuse me. But I think that when we really look at it, there's just a lot of stuff for this team to just take the next step, and I think that that's going to be really good, at least on the highlights perspective. Bubble Murray again. We've all seen that. We've all seen how he can be. I expect him to be more of that because last year, the last 20-ish games, he was actually going off. He was actually scoring 25, I believe, or 23 on 50, 45, and 90 splits. And I expect that to come back. Michael Porter Jr., I'm actually not sure how he's going to come back, but if he's like at least 80% of the player that he was when he was fully healthy, again, another highlight reel specialist. Even though he's really a catch and shoot player, once he cuts, bro, and especially when he dunks, it's crazy. I like it. Jamal Murray also has just an insane layup package that no one talks about. And Jokic, I think that Jokic is probably at least a top 5 highlight player in the league right now. And I understand that people don't like, a more methodical player, but some of the passes that he creates is insane. And I think that I don't want to take that for granted. I think that when we look at how this team is shaped up right now, a lot of defenders too. I'm probably gonna watch this team the most. out of every team. So yeah, I think that's gonna be it for me. This is Nehemiah, aka Neo, and I hope you guys are having a great one. And remember to share your top 5 favorite teams, or not favorite, but more fun teams going into next season. So I'll catch y'all later. Peace